Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Warriors Walk-Off here on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. Thank you for joining us. We are brought to you by Russell and Associates. And this week, we'll start off the show by talking Warriors softball with head coach Greg Jones. And Coach Jones, I know baseball had some cancellations. You had a couple of cancellations as well, but you did get 6 games in, and you had 2 road games. And then you had 4 games that I think were supposed to be on the road, ended up being played at home. Let's start out by talking about the 2 road games against Augustana, top team in the NSIC, 14th in the country. Unfortunately, those were 2 losses. Tell us about how your team played in those 2 games.
Well, early on, it was a good game. It was 5-5 into the 5th. That we scored first in the first inning, and then they came right back and scored a couple. So it had a back and forth nature to it. It was tied 5-5 in the 5th, and then it kind of got away from us. One of those tough days. The wind was blowing out hard. They hit the ball well off our pitching, and we didn't. We hit well early, and then once they jumped on us, the game kind of just ended pretty quickly, and it was pretty one-sided from about the 5th inning of game 1 on through the rest. Again, I'm not sure which was more concerning, the fact that they hit so many balls out of the ballpark or the fact that we didn't, because the wind was blowing straight out for both teams. So they had a really good day offensively. We kind of flattened out once the game got away from us. But after the game, Coach Tischer and I both always speak to the team after games, and Coach Tischer's message to him was, talking about this game isn't going to bring it back, isn't going to fix it. There's no sense of dwelling on it. We just turn the page and move on. And that's basically what we did.
Do you use this as motivation? Because I'm sure down the road, you're going to see Augustana, especially if you make a run in the playoffs. Do you use this to point and say, look, we're going to be a better team than we were on these 2 days?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily motivation to play Augie. I think it's just motivation to close the gap. I think my concern after the game was trying to figure out how big this gap really is between us and them at the top of the league. Clearly, they're right now the best team in the league, and I don't think there's really any question about it. Who's next? I think there's a big logjam, but I think Augustana is truly the best team in the league, and so for us, it's about, okay, how big is the gap? Is the gap 10 runs? Or is the gap, well, it was 5-5 in the 5th, and if we play really well, maybe we can beat them type of thing. And so I don't think the motivation is necessarily about, hey, let's go back and get another shot at Augie. I think the motivation is, look, we know we've got some improvements to make if we want to be a team that contend in the NSIC this year. So let's methodically work on getting better little by little. And at the end of the year, if we get another shot at Augie or anybody else for a championship, in the conference tournament or whatever the case may be, a shot at the postseason, how much have we closed that gap and given ourselves that opportunity?
Well, whatever you and Coach Tischer said at the end of the game helped, because you swept Minnesota Crookston 8-0 and 15-0. Those were 2 big games. Tell us a little bit about that, especially, again, Liz Potts leading the way with a 3-hitter in the first game.
Yeah, Liz really threw the ball well for us. I was just happy with how we responded. Tuesday's game at Augustana, and then the gap to get to the weekend was only a couple of days, but it seemed like a long week because you had to get back to work. You had to kind of refocus and reshape what you were trying to do. We were dealing with weather and transportation, and were they going to come here? Were we going to go there? And so I think for as much that was happening, it was actually a really good thing, because it put a lot of space between the losses and the new opportunity to go out there and play again. And then we hit the ball really well. I think we hit the ball really well all weekend, but we really hit the ball well on Saturday, and allowed our pitching to just kind of do what it needed to do, our defense to be what it needed to be. And everybody kind of just played more relaxed, because we went out there and we put runs on the scoreboard right away. And then everybody just kind of settled in and we played our softball games.
One name that I want to bring up before we run out of time is Carly Engelhardt. What a weekend she had. I think she had 4 home runs. She now has 6 on the season to lead your team in that category, but 4 home runs in the 2 doubleheaders that she played over the weekend. What got into her this weekend?
Yeah, we even last year as a freshman, you just see Carly's a masher. I mean, she can She's not one of those kids like Libby or Riley or some of the other kids we've had in the past that just hit the towering home runs. She just hits the ball hard. She puts a lot of barrels on the ball and she squares it up. She's more of a line drive hitter, but she has such enormous power, and you could always see it. It was just kind of a matter of, getting in a place where she felt and I felt, that she was ready to go. She was coming off a really bad knee injury coming into her freshman year, and I think that set her back a little bit. And then it was just a matter of time and opportunity. But she's really been coming on as of late. We could see it at the end of Florida, into the Missouri weekend, and so we just kind of decided to go with her. And man, she made that look like a great decision, because she has really been hitting the ball well. It's amazing.
All right, and I don't want to always talk about home runs, but I know it's special when you get your first one. And Logan Anderson had her first home run in her career at Winona State. Talk about that moment.
Yeah, that was big. And she had a big smile coming around second base. And we've kind of, myself, I don't know, Logan's pretty even keeled and really handles herself well as a freshman. I just kind of been waiting to see it, because Logan every day in practice is such a good hitter. She's so versatile defensively. Almost to her detriment. We keep trying to move her around. She's a catcher by trade. We keep trying to find a spot for her, first base, third base, left field, right field, DP. I think the older she gets in this program, where she really settles into a defensive spot, where I can settle her into a defensive spot, her bat's really going to be special for us as well.
One other player that I want to highlight before we get into the Bemidji State games is Brianna Luciano. She pitches. She plays in the field, and she's been hitting very well this season as well. Talk about what you get from her.
Yeah, with all of our kids, it's really interesting this year, because we have played so many different lineups this year compared to what we've done in the past. And we have so many kids that can play multiple spots and do multiple things and be weapons for us in a lot of different ways. Bree's one of those kids. She came in as a pitcher shortstop. Now she's playing a lot of second base. At one point, I talked to her going into the Bemidji game, if we make a change, I might slide you into left field. And she just looked at me and said, "Coach, I'm ready for anything." But I'm just so happy for Bree, because she ended up becoming a starter for us her freshman year down in Florida, and that's when COVID hit and shut everything down right after she had made 8 really good starts at shortstop for us. Now we brought in some other really talented kids last year as freshmen, and Bree ended up not playing much as a sophomore, and she's answered the bell this year by coming back and just being determined and focused, and has gotten herself back on the field, and she's earned everything, and now is doing a really good job as a leader, as an offensive producer, and as a kid who's got some defensive flexibility for us.
All right, and then to round out the weekend, you played Bemidji State, also games that were home games that were originally road games, but snow in Bemidji forced those to be here. 7-2 in game 1, 5-1 in game 2. How did you feel about your team's play in those games?
I thought it was important that we, because it feels like when we win big, and if we lose big, and we needed to get back into, okay, what are we going to do when it's 0-0 in the 5th inning? What are we going to do if we're down 2-1? And we respond to that, and we were able to do that. We got out early in that first game, and kind of won that first game going away. But the second game was really tight until late, and we had a big 6th inning and tacked on and put a crooked number up, and just had back big hits, doubles off the fence into the gap, scored runs, great energy, great focus. But all along, in both games, Liz and Abby really had to carry the load and work stressful innings and high leverage innings with runners on base, our scores, close to the vest. And I thought we needed that because we know the stretch coming up is so tough. So I thought that was probably the best part of the Bemidji games. Obviously, we always tell our kids it's not about the wins and losses. It's about how we're doing it, what our process is. We don't play the game to have won it. We play the game for the 5th inning when it's tied and the bases are loaded and you don't know who's going to win. And so that's where goosebumps and butterflies come from. And we'd kind of gotten in a stretch where the game was out of hand by the 4th or 5th inning, one way or the other. And we needed to kind of get back into that dogfight mentality. And I thought we responded well.
I want to bring up Abby Halas too, because she's had some up and down moments in the circle, which obviously happens, but it was good to see what she did in game 2 against Bemidji State, where she produced at the plate and she also shut down Bemidji State. Talk about her performance against Bemidji.
Yeah, and I don't want to, hold it up as it's something that can't be done, but I just think it gets overlooked at how big of a challenge it is to play shortstop and hit at the top of the order in one game and then go pitch a game and still be expected to do what we need her to do on the offensive side in game two. It takes some mental toughness, and it takes some physical toughness, because you've got to, what you're doing there that other people don't have to do is you have to overcome a lot. And so you're always overcoming, and you make a bad pitch, or you have a strikeout, or you have a bad at bat. Now you got to erase it and go to the field and make a pitch. Or if you have a bad half inning, now you've got to erase it and go have a good at bat. Or if you had a bad first game, on the field or whatever. So you're always overcoming things. And what Abby does really well, she has a really good spirit about her. She's got good energy. When she's on, she's just got such great juice and leads us that way emotionally as much as physically. And she's done a really nice job of being able to bounce back. And she's that kid that you just trust, that you're going to get her best effort every day in everything that she does.
Let's look ahead to this weekend. Hopefully you get these games in, because first you play on Tuesday against Augustana, the number 1 team in the conference. You're number 2. Now you face number 3 and number 4 in St. Cloud and Duluth. What are you looking for in the games this weekend?
Yeah, and the weather is just so disappointing, because you just don't want to have to play the weather on top of a really talented team. And because that just takes part of your mental capacity, because you're overcoming things. And I don't mind playing in cold weather. That doesn't bother me. That's part of the nature of this part of the country. But man, have we played in some wind, and wind changes the game. And then when it's a cold wind and it's only in the upper 30s or low 40s, now you're just battling your body and the elements as much as the opponent. And so that's disappointing. Both teams have to do it. It's not a poor us thing. It's just, when you have good matchups, you would like the matchups to be clean and pure, and they're going to be affected a little bit, because you're going to have 18 kids out there for 2 teams battling each other and the elements. But they're great matchups. I'm glad they're at home. You get to play in front of the home crowd on Easter weekend, which is nice. And but you've got 2 uber talented teams coming in that are going to take their best shot. And so we just hope that we can be prepared and be mentally tough and overcome some of the obstacles that will be the weather, and play a clean game, and we'll see where it falls.
And then one last thing that I want to get to before we end for today is that this is an interesting stretch that you have, and I know this kind of happens every year, but you have 19 days left in the regular season, and you have 18 games on the schedule, if my counting is correct, with the playoffs beginning on May 5th. What do you do to prepare your team for that sort of sprint?
It's hard, because we were just talking about today. We haven't made a decision yet today on whether or not we're going to practice, because you're trying to balance rest with preparation. And we started a game yesterday and got through 3 innings against Concordia before the hailstorm hit and the lightning storm, and we had to go home and didn't get to play. So if we would have had a game yesterday, a full doubleheader, there's no question we would have taken today off, rest, recover, have a day to get a workout in before the weekend. And now we kind of played, but we didn't play. And so you're trying to figure out, so do we need to practice, or do we need the day off? And I just think that's the never ending challenge of trying to balance rest with preparation. And you don't want to ever go into a game feeling like you're not prepared, but I also don't want to wear them down, because there's so much out ahead of them, and they've got schoolwork. They also, the other thing that just goes unsaid, not just schoolwork, but final exams. And that's a grind for kids, and pulling all-nighters, and then getting up early and going to the weight room and all that kind of stuff. You're trying to keep them as rested as possible and as sharp mentally as possible. So they need that time off. Yet as a coach, you're always trying to fix something. And how can we get this right? And let's make sure we're prepared, because we don't want to go into a game unprepared either. So that's the balance that we're trying right now to kind of sort through.
All right. Well, you got your work cut out ahead of you then. And good luck in the games this weekend. And thanks for the time this week.
Thanks so much, Justin. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And we're going to take a break here on Warriors Walk Off. When we come back, we'll talk Warrior baseball with head coach Kyle Pope right after this.
days of classic pro wrestling, you can relive them right here with Classic All-Star Wrestling, featuring wrestling from the 50s to the 90s, the 4 top decades in the history of professional wrestling, from Gorgeous George to New Jack. It's all right here. Classic All-Star Wrestling. Fans, you're not going to want to miss it. Terry Funk, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Jerry the King Lawler, and more.
Meet Jenny Siseski of Edina Realty. With nearly 30 years' experience, she knows that right now is the best time to sell your home. Jenny will help you get top dollar, higher than ever before. With today's low interest rates, it's time to upgrade your home and increase its value. High demand and low inventory also make this a perfect time to list your home. Call for a free market analysis. Contact Jenny Siseski at Edina Realty today, 507-458-7038.
This is the only show devoted to amateur baseball. This is Perfect Game Weekly, presented by Rawlings.
Left-handed stroke, a lot of whip, a lot of natural loft to it.
Ever since I started baseball, I've been working hard to reach my goal, and that is one day to get drafted and to make it to the MLB.
Two-seam changeup with me throwing a two-seam fastball.
Have you seen the new Fox Sports app? Check this out. It's been designed so you can easily find everything that's important to you. You get all the top stories and scores, and then you tap here and boom, you're watching sports live on Fox. You can also follow your favorite teams and players and get all the latest news and social updates. There are even bonus cameras. It's got everything. The all-new Fox Sports app. Get it? Use it. You'll love it.
Food, shelter, fast internet. It's all we really need. Good thing HBC has the fast, reliable internet it takes to power all the Wi-Fi hungry gadgets in your home, all at once. With speeds like these, get smooth HD streaming video, gaming, music, and surfing, all with no waiting, no buffering, no kidding. You want it. You need it. Get it. Call or click hbci.com and upgrade your internet today.
And welcome back to Warriors Walk-Off on HBC TV 25. Time now to talk baseball with head coach Kyle Polk. And Coach Polk, you had 3 games against Minnesota Duluth. That's all that you're able to fit in because of weather. We'll talk about weather a little bit later on. Let's talk about baseball first. You started off the weekend with a win, beating Minnesota Duluth 6-3. Tell us a little bit about that game.
Well, that was we got some runs early in the game, and then Nick Harold, who he's been our closer for a couple of years now. We moved him into the starting rotation, and he's throwing really, really well. He's throwing really well. He's minimizing things, pounding the strike zone. Don't want to jinx him, but striking guys out, and he's doing great. And he's always giving us a chance to win when he's on the mound.
Yeah, 11 strikeouts against Minnesota Duluth, just 1 earned run, and picked up his 3rd win of the year. So yeah, he has done a really good job. In fact, he only gave up 5 hits, I think, against Minnesota Duluth. So just a great start for him.
Yep. And we got some runs early in the game. So when that happens, then he gets even better. And he's getting, we used to use him as a closer, so he'd throw 25, 30 pitches a game, and that'd be it. He's getting up there. I think he threw 100 pitches. And so we've got him lengthened out a little bit. It's working great for us. And our guys like playing when he's pitching. They like playing defense behind him. And it seems like when we're on the offensive side, we're putting together some good at-bats and scoring runs when needed.
Yeah, Miller Wallace was key in that game. He had a triple, which is kind of a rarity for your team. I think you've only had 2 triples on the season. And then Austin Beyer drove him in to get some runs early on. So like you said, you scored early, you had good pitching, and that kind of led you to the win. Yeah.
And the triple was probably is one of those goofy bounces off the wall that the fielder was going for it, and the ball hit the wall. One of the nooks, we're playing at Wade Stadium, the old stadium that was built probably in the 1940s up there. So I hit the wall and went past him, and so the guy to chase it down, by the time he got it, Miller was already to third. So one of those type of triples. But yeah, and I think Derek Baumgartner had a 2-run home run for us in that game early that really sparked us a little bit and got us going. So it was a good team effort.
And then defensively, Derek Baumgartner came up with a big play, throwing out a runner trying to steal, which kind of ended a rally for Minnesota Duluth.
Yeah, yep. That was a key play for us too. He does a great job behind the play. Both him and Dane Weiland, our catchers, have thrown out a few guys this year, which helps out and helps you get out of jams.
All right. Then we talk about the other games that happened against Minnesota Duluth, close games, 5-4 and 6-4. Unfortunately, both losses. Dylan Whitaker, though, in game one, started out really well through 4 scoreless innings. Tell us a little bit about the games then that you had on Monday.
Yeah, Dylan threw well. Dylan deserved to get a win. He's one of our hard luck guys. I didn't realize, I looked at the stats, he doesn't have a win this year, and he's a good pitcher. I don't know what to say. He just doesn't have the luck. We just don't make plays, or we don't hit when he pitches. But I thought that one, we got to the 4th, 5th inning, we had the lead. I thought we were going to get him a win there, and then things just kind of fell apart in the bottom of the 7th. Our relief guy, Peter Tweedy, came in the 6th and bang, got out of it. Then just had a hard time finding the strike zone, and they put together a couple good offensive plays, and we didn't make the plays, and we got beat in the bottom of the 7th on that one. So yeah, that was a tough one to swallow.
Then you had to come back in game 2, and that was a 6-4 loss. Cameron Kramer was your starter in that one. You got a home run from Carter Brinkman, from Carter Brinkman. What happened then in game 2?
Yeah, kind of the same thing in game 1. We pitched good enough to win. We missed 2 plays in one of the innings. I think it was that you got to make those plays. If you do that, it changes the whole outcome. And then it was just a matter of not executing when we had guys in base. And I'll give Duluth credit. They're kind of a senior upperclassman dominated team, and they did a better job. And our young guys, which I keep telling people, we're getting better. But at times, we just got to be better at those things. And the more we play in games like that, the better we'll get.
Let's talk about hitting, because I know that we had talked about it before, that you needed to get some more key hits during games, and you needed to execute a little bit more. The batting average is rising a little bit. It's now up to 229 for the whole team. Your leading hitter is Carter Brinkman at 293. I know with the weather, this has got to be difficult to try to work on some of these things. What are some of the things that you and your coaching staff are doing to try to improve the hitting this season?
Well, like you said, with the weather, the best thing to do is be out on the field and have BP where you can work on things. You can see what's happening to the ball when you make contact. We can work on situations. Well, when we're not out on the field because of the weather, we're just indoors in the cage, and we try talking to cage, hit the back of the cage. You want a line drive in the back of the cage, but that after a while that gets old. And the guy, I don't blame the guys either. It's not fun. It's not what we're gonna do. So getting back out, we talk a lot about the mental things, the mental aspects, and what you're doing with a plan. But like I talked to some guy after the game at Duluth, because we didn't have a couple good approaches. We swung at pitches we shouldn't have early in the count. And then yesterday, Price said, well, I got to apologize because I watched the Brewers and Lorenzo Cain did the same thing I'm telling you not to do and stuff. And I said, if a major league player can't even figure out, I guess, what am I trying to teach a college player about it? So, but it's just one of those things that you got to have a mindset, you got to have a plan, and then execute and make sure you're getting good pitches to hit.
All right. And then the other side of the coin with the weather is that, games are kind of disappearing as well. From my count, you've had 11 games that were canceled this season due to weather. You have currently on the schedule 18 games left in 25 days before the playoffs start on May 11th. What kind of toll does that take on the players? Because here you are, you're trying to get ready for games. You're also trying to balance schoolwork and personal lives and all of this. And then you get up and get ready for games, and then they get canceled. And then you have to come down from that. How does that affect the players?
Well, I hope, like we keep talking, that we can't worry about the outside stuff and the outside noise. We just got to stay focused. The interesting thing is our guys, and they know, like, they got to get here today early because we got to get the tarp off. And I explained, remember baseball and softball are the 2 sports that are on our campuses basically. And now our women's track, because we don't have a track, that we got to do all our work. We do all our work to prepare everything, baseball, softball, and track. The other sports, basically, they just show up and play. So it's a little bit more of a grind for our guys. I should say gymnastics too, because they have to set up and stuff too. But no, we've helped them with that a couple times. But it's a grind, but they know it. Being a baseball player their whole life, they've probably done it all the way through youth and high school, and then they get here, they know that. So it's just a really good balance. Our guys are really good students, and so that helps a little bit. They're pretty motivated to do what they have to do, and so it's not easy, but they get through it.
And, kind of going along with that point that you were talking about, as soon as you're done here, you have to go and work on your field to hopefully get the games in on Wednesday against Bemidji State. Kind of walk us through that. What all do you have to do in order to get the field ready to go, especially in a condition where it was pouring overnight?
Yeah, well, so we came out yesterday. We were supposed to play Bemidji yesterday, but that got canceled, and then we got the site reversal, so they're coming here. So we got back late Monday night, looked at the weather, saw that it wasn't going to really rain overnight, so we were okay. We practiced at 2:30. Well, at 3 o'clock, the hit the fan, and it was coming, so we quick got the tarp on the field. So the tarp's on the field, and that's when all the hail and everything came. And so now the job is today. We got to get the guys here a little bit earlier, and we're gonna have to take the tarp off. Right now, though, the Coach Riley just walked in, and he and I will probably go out and get brooms, and we're gonna sweep as much water as we can off the tarp. We got some spots where there's holes in the tarp, so we got to deal with that. But once we get the tarp off, it's just finding those wet spots, getting some diamond dry on it. We got to repaint some lines because we weren't supposed to be here. We were supposed to be on the road not till Friday, Saturday, so we got to redo some of that. So there's plenty of stuff for us to do before our guys show up for BP. And like I said, they'll show up at 11 o'clock today, and then we have batting practice at 11:30, and then hopefully play at 1:30.
Yeah, hopefully you get those games in. And then this weekend, you host Minnesota State, and it's a 4-game series, but 3 of the games are conference games and 1 is a non-conference game. Can you explain what happened with that?
Well, they've lost games early. Like I said, we've lost 11 games. So Coach Moggers called like 2 weeks ago and said, hey, what do you think? You're missing games. I'm missing games because of weather. Why don't we just play the 4th game and as a non-conference? I said, yeah, we'll do that. But now looking at the weather, we'll see if we'll get that in, because we may have to adjust some things because of the weather on Friday and Saturday forecast and now with the cold. So hopefully we can get the 4th game in as a non-conference game. The first 3 games are conference, which count. But if something happens with weather, we'll just eliminate that 4th game, but try to get the other 3 in. So it's like we've talked about doing that with some other teams, but the weather, it just hasn't been conducive to doing it. This is one of those years you just got to chalk it up to Mother Nature is going to win.
Yes, and Mother Nature is undefeated as things go. Well, good luck. Hopefully those games do get in, and hopefully we can talk about some wins next week when we talk to you next.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, and thank you for watching Warriors Walk Off here on HBC TV 25. We'll see you next week.